This is warm-up that will start at 180 and we will go up to 200 or more, probably more. So I will question.
I will answer.
17. For the record, would you state your full name, please, Mrs. Hogue?
Pauline Hogue.
What is your residence address?
18339 Ashworth Avenue, North Seattle, 98133.
What is your husband's name?
Howard.
And he resides at the same address with you?
Yes, I presume he does.
You have no children living at home with you now?
No.
Is there anybody else living in your home with the two of you?
No.
When is your birth date?
August 11th.
What year were you born?
1929.
Is your husband employed?
Yes.
Where does he work?
Burlington Northern.
What does he do there?
Well, he is a pipe fitter.
A pipe fitter?
Yes.
How long have you and Mr. Hogue been married?
20 years.
I understand that you are not now employed?
No, I ain't able to work now.
When was the last time you did have a job outside the home?
I believe it was in 91.
What did you do then?
I was a florist.
You were with a florist?
Yes.
What did you do?
All kinds of florist work.
What kind of work did you do? Arranging flowers and so forth?
Funerals and things.
What was the florist that you worked for?
Whites.
About how long did you work there?
About a year.
Why did you leave?
I got sick. I had to quit.
What kind of illness was it?
Well, just didn't feel like working.
So you haven't worked since then?
No.
Do you have any kind of a disability income from Social Security or any other source?
Well, I'm over 65. I draw my Social Security, I guess.
But no income specifically related to your illness or a disability?
No.
I understand that you have completed the 10th grade of high school, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you have any education beyond that?
No.
Where did you go to high school?
Winfield, Alabama.
How long have you lived in the Seattle area?
Since 1968, 30 years.
The accident that we are going to be discussing today happened in March of 1996. Is that true?
March 15th at 5:10, Sunday afternoon.
I understand that prior to that time you had had some difficulties. You had been ill and you had been in the hospital 2 or 3 times. I'd like for you to tell me up to that time what physical problems you had had.
Well, I had gallbladder, which was in about 1972 or 73, and I only stayed in the hospital 2 nights, and I got up and walked out and never was in bed. It wasn't nothing serious, not with me, and then I lost 3 toes on my right foot from ingrown toenails, and I let it go until blood poisoning and gangrene, and took me to the hospital, but I never remembered going, and I stayed there 5 weeks.
5 weeks?
Uh-huh.
Which 3 toes were they?
The 3 front toes, the big toe and...
The 2 next to that?
Yes.
When was that?
Gee, that was in 1994.
Between 1994 and 1996, did you have any serious problems?
No.
In 1982, do you remember who your doctor was?
Dr. Sine.
So he has been your doctor, just your regular doctor, for a long time?
Very long time.
He also treated you for the toe problems, is that right? Referred you to a surgeon and kept track of your case?
Yes.
Okay.
And I went to, my thinker isn't working right, to another hospital, but I can't say the name of the hospital.
Before you had the toe operation or afterwards?
Yes, that is where I had them taken off at. See, I went to Stevens Memorial, and they couldn't do it there, so they sent me to Providence. See, it comes to me now.
You recovered from that surgery successfully, is that right?
Yes, 5 weeks. They had to take, I got plastic blood veins in my leg all the way to my heart.
This happened when? After the toe operation, or was it at the same time?
That is when I had it. They had to take out these blood veins, and they made a complete bypass on my body, and then I got infection in the toe where it was cut off, and one here where they had my leg cut open. I was a long time healing there. It took me a long time to ever walk.
Do you have any problem walking now?
Yes, because when you don't have these 3 toes on your foot, you don't have any brakes. You don't have something more than just a walking cane.
Did you use a cane?
No.
Does it present any problems in your driving?
What?
Is it a problem to drive when you don't have those toes?
No, it doesn't bother me when I am driving.
Going back to this period then, when you were in the hospital, you were there for 5 weeks. You had an operation for your toes, and you had the operation to replace the blood vessels.
They had to do that so I could live.
That all happened during that same hospitalization.
Right.
Is that the last time you were ever in the hospital?
Oh, yes.
Do you recall how many times you were in surgery during those 5 weeks?
Yes. During the toe amputation?
Yes.
Well, only the one time. They just doctored me and got this blood poisoning thing and gangrene down to where they could cut my toes off. But they were all black and everything. And they were trying to keep from having to cut my leg off at my knee.
So they did the blood vessels and the toes at the same time?
Well, I will have to be honest with you. I never knew a thing from the time I left my house until 2 days before they brought me back to my house. I never knew no pain or anything. That was wonderful.
So you came home from the hospital after that surgery in 1994, approximately when? What month of the year?
It was in March, I think. I can't be positive.
When you did go home, did you continue to convalesce? Did you have to stay in bed, rest, take care of yourself?
Oh, yes, and I was on crutches a long time.
Did you eventually get back to pretty much normal?
Yes, as far as my leg is concerned. Naturally, I can't walk like I could if I had my toes.
But basically, you think you have recovered from all of that?
Yes.
About how long did that take, do you think, from March of 94 until you felt you had gotten over it?
I would say until 1997.
Can you think of any other injuries or illnesses that you suffered from before you had this accident in March of 96?
No.
Did you have diabetes before 1996?
Well, I was borderline, yes, but I never was in no hospital or anything.
So you were borderline diabetes?
Yes.
Did you take any medication?
No.
When did you discover you were a borderline diabetic?
It has been about 3 years ago.
About 3 years ago?
Yes, they put me on a diet.
Is this Dr. Sinai that put you on a diet?
No, I went to the Mason Clinic.
What doctor was treating you there?
I can't think of the name.
Do you recall when you went to the Mason Clinic?
Not any specific time I can.
Which year?
It has been 2 years now, this coming spring, about March or April. It would be 2 years.
March or April of 1996?
Yes, 97. It will be 2 years in 97, or it was 2 years in 97.
So it was March or April of 95?
Right.
Has the fact that you have borderline diabetes affected you in any way? Do you have any problems that you are aware of?
No, not that I can tell, because when I do go back for my regular checkup to Dr. Sinai, he takes tests and he did give me a diabetic pill. I forgot about that. I take whenever I can think about it.
Is it something you are supposed to take every day?
Yes.
Do you know what it is?
No.
But sometimes you forget.
Yes.
Any other injuries before this particular accident?
No.
Did you have a back problem before this accident?
Yes.
Tell me about that, would you?
In my neck, and then
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
in my neck.
You had a neck problem.
Yeah, which I have had since 1948.
What is that?
Well, the chiropractor says that I had a lick of some kind, and the things in my neck grew out on one side and never was put back in place because I didn't know when I did it.
So you may have hurt yourself without knowing it at some time?
Right.
Since 1948?
Right.
What are the symptoms of this neck problem? Does it hurt?
No, I can just turn my head so far.
So it restricts how far you can turn your neck.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Can you turn your neck to the right so that your chin is above your shoulder?
Yes.
How about to the left? You can't turn it any further than that?
No.
Does it hurt?
You mean to turn it?
Yes. To try?
Yes.
Does it hurt if you don't try to turn it any further than that?
No.
Did this accident in March of 1996 make your neck any worse?
Oh, yes.
How much worse did it make it?
Well, that is the reason I can't turn it any farther than I can.
So prior to the accident,
Because it like to jerk my neck off.
prior to the accident then, you could turn your neck further than,
Yes.
how far could you turn your neck then?
Well, I never had any problem turning it as far as I wanted to.
You mentioned that the chiropractor had described to you what was wrong with your neck and why it bothered you.
Yes.
When was it that he told you what the problem was?
About either 85 or 86.
Do you recall that chiropractor's name?
Got a funny name, Dr. Reschke.
He is the same one that you saw more recently.
Yes.
Any other problems before that accident?
Other than my back.
Now tell me about your back.
Well, up until the accident, I could use my back and I could bend real good, but now I can't bend. When I am washing dishes at the sink and I get over so far, sometimes I have to help myself back up.
But you did have a problem with your back sometime before the accident?
Right.
It is that problem that I'd like you to talk about. What was the problem before the accident?
Deteriorated disc, 2 deteriorated discs in my back.
Who was treating you for that, or who diagnosed it?
Reschke again?
Do you know what was the cause of that problem originally?
No.
When did you first realize there was a problem with your back?
1948.
1948. When did you first see Dr. Reschke?
Reschke, well, he will know what it is anyway.
So in 1948, you first had the back problem, and,
yes.
And you first consulted this chiropractor?
Not this one.
Another one in 1948?
Well, that was my trouble. I didn't go to anyone. How you want me to tell you how I discovered I had this back trouble?
I'd like to know when the back trouble started, and you told me that was in 1948. Now I'd like to know when you first sought medical or chiropractic treatment for it.
1986.
Who did you seek?
Well, the doctor told me what my trouble was. He is not my chiropractor. My husband was going to this chiropractor himself for back trouble, and Dr. King in Mount Vernon. Anyway, I told him that I was the one that should be seeing him instead of my husband, and he laid me down on this table, and one foot was about this much longer than the other, but I have been going all those years without treatment.
So you had a back pain all those years, and you first saw a chiropractor in 1986, and that was Dr. King, who was treating your husband. Is that right?
Yes.
This is like comedy material. We are switching material now. And doing a little speed push at about 2:10. Okay, beginning with the question for the record. Mr. Brock, I assume Mr. Marks has given you some ideas about how the questions are going to be going this afternoon, and you understand why we are here?
Yes.
If at any time you don't hear me or understand me, please stop me before you try to answer a question, and let's get it straightened out before that.
Yes.
And the gentleman on your right there has to take down everything we say, and he can't get a nod of the head and so forth. So will you please keep your voice up and keep your answers coming orally and not just nodding your head?
All right.
May I have your full name, please?
Billie L. Brock.
Do you spell that B-I-L-L-I-E?
That is the way it is on the birth certificate.
Your present age?
28.
Are you married?
Yes.
Your wife's name, please?
Carla.
With a C or a K?
C.
And any children living with you?
2.
And where are you living now?
4007 Fargo Road.
And is that property owned by your father, William Lee Brock?
Yes.
And is William Lee his proper name?
You have got me.
Okay. How do you know him when you talk to other people about him? Is it Bill or Lee?
How about Dad?
Okay. Well, if you have to call him something officially, what do you call him?
Lee.
Are you living in a trailer house on that property?
Yes.
Now, originally, your father bought that property from your brother-in-law. Is that right?
Right.
And at that time that your father and mother purchased the property from your brother-in-law, you were already on the premises?
Right.
You were living in the house that is on there?
Right.
Generally speaking, how big a house is that?
2-bedroom average.
Separate kitchen, separate dining room?
No dining room.
But a living room?
Living room, 2 bedrooms.
How many baths?
1.
Now, can you tell me how long you were living on the property before your father purchased it?
Oh, about 18, 19 years, or you say now before you purchased it? Well, put it this way, I've lived there altogether about 18, 19 years.
Well, had there been any time in the past when your parents lived on there while your brother-in-law owned it?
Yes.
I see. How long before the accident, or withdraw that, how long before your father bought the property did your mother and father move out of there?
Oh, probably 3 years, I guess.
So for 3 years before your father and mother owned it, you were sort of renting from your brother-in-law? Is that it?
No, no.
What have I got wrong?
We was back east. We moved back east in 1908.
Or maybe 2008, do you mean?
Oh, yes.
All right. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I totally messed that up.
That's okay. Let's just pretend that never happened. Okay. All right. Is this correct? Your brother-in-law owned it for a number of years before your father-in-law bought it?
He built it, yes.
Oh, he built it. So your brother-in-law owned the place for over 10 years before your father finally bought it?
Right,
Your father and mother moved off there about 3 years before your parents finally bought the place?
approximately.
When did you move onto the property in relation to the time that your parents purchased it?
I was there all the time except for whenever I was back east.
What were you back east for?
Working, going to school,
How long were you away?
a year and a half, 2 years.
All right. Now I want to fit that into this 3-year period we have been talking about. When your mother and father moved out, did you move out at the same time or did you stay on a while?
Let's see, let's put it this way. All the time that that property has been going, I have either lived on it or I have been back east.
I understand that, but approximately 3 years before your parents bought it, they moved out
They bought a house, trailer,
and moved over on Wilson Way?
and moved to Wilson Way.
Okay, and then there is that is the reason why they moved off this Fargo property. Is that it, when they moved on to Wilson Way?
I don't know what the reason was for moving out there. They still had a house trailer on that property.
Where was that?
4007 Fargo Road.
Where was it sitting?
Same place as the one is now.
Is that the one you are living in?
No, they traded it in on the other one, but also there is a cabin there on the same property.
Well, then, I don't understand the whole picture about this property. At the time your parents were living out there, when your brother-in-law owned the place, how many units were out on that property?
3.
One house, a cabin, and a house trailer? The house is the one that you live in, or you?
It is the same one I was living in, yes.
Then the cabin, what is it like?
It is just about the same size of a normal living room.
Anybody live in it permanently,
No,
consistently?
no.
What is it used for?
It did have a bedroom out there
For what?
for sleeping.
For whom?
Me?
When you were living alone?
No, I was in the house. Whenever I was renting, I lived in the house.
Is this before you were married?
I lived in it was either in the house or in the house trailer or in the cabin all this time.
All right. What is the trailer that was out there? Let's say at the time your parents bought it.
A 27-foot Schultz.
Where is it now?
Traded it in on the other one.
The one that went to Wilson Way?
Right.
All right. Did they ever live in that Schultz trailer on Wilson Way?
No.
Okay. When they moved out from Fargo to Wilson Way, did you continue to live on one of those units on the Fargo property?
I don't remember because that might have been the time when I went back east.
All right. Let's assume it was the time you went back east. You said you went there a year or so,
I was back there a year and a half.
and then you came back to that property to live?
That was after they bought it, and I lived in the house.
And that was after who bought it?
My folks.
Well, there is a 3-year lag here, and I don't quite figure it out yet. You say you were away from the property about 3 years before they finally bought it?
I don't know any particular dates. I couldn't tell you for sure whether it was 3 years or 3 months.
What kind of records?
You were talking approximately?
What kind of records do you have that might show the dates we are talking about?
I have got checks that show I paid rent, if that is what you were referring to.
Any kind of record
Yes, I have checks.
paid to whom?
My dad.
Did you ever pay any of those checks to your brother-in-law?
No.
Did you ever pay rent to your brother-in-law?
No.
After your parents moved over to Wilson Way, did you live out there on that property and not pay rent to anybody?
There have been occasions where I didn't pay monthly rent, yes.
How about when you came back from the east?
I paid rent.
To whom?
My dad,
Right away?
yes.
So can I assume from that your father owned the place at the time you came back from the east?
I guess you could, but I wouldn't say for sure because I really don't know. You were talking quite a while ago.
Okay, we're going to do takes now.